I'm a psychotherapist, and today we're going to be diagnosing Bear from Obsession. Bear's a really interesting character because he is so obsessed with Nikki that he actually makes a wish to make her fall in love with him. And yeah, he didn't know it was going to work, but still, that's quite the headspace to be in. Somewhat understandable because his cat died recently because it got into his pill bottles. Now you can tell throughout the movie that he slowly becomes aware that his wish did actually work, and that's the entire reason this is happening, and therefore it's not really a consensual relationship. But he goes through great lengths to try and ignore this detail so that way he can conveniently be with Nikki. There's even a scene where the demon or whatever inside of her is asleep and she's able to speak through her body like normal, and she literally requests that he kill her. Despite this request, he actually takes offense to this and proceeds to go on like normal. Doesn't even focus on the horror of the situation or the tragedy of her being trapped inside of this body that isn't really even hers anymore. He more so just focuses on like, well, what's so wrong with being with me? I'm gonna probably make the biggest mistake of my life by putting too much trust in my audience to allow me to explain the nuances of this, but I do think that Bear is generally neurotypical. The reason that I say this is not to say that he is a good person, not to say that he is a moral person, not to say that he does not have trauma, not to say that he does not map onto any symptoms of any diagnoses. The reason that I say that is because I do not think that he cleanly maps onto a particular pathology that is within things like the DSM. Well, let me go through some of his symptoms. First off, him taking that one comment very personally and being like, well, who wouldn't want to be with me, is very narcissistic in nature. That's what I would call a narcissistic defense mechanism. However, I don't see enough covert or overt narcissism and instances like that throughout the movie that make me believe that he would qualify for something like NPD. Additionally, this can be a very borderline personality disorder coded movie in the sense that both Bear and the possessed Nikki both kind of have traits that are stereotypically BPD. However, I actually don't think that Bear has that volatile of relationships. He actually doesn't seem that rejection sensitive on the whole. Yes, he seems to be nervous, avoid rejection and things like that, but I don't necessarily qualify him as someone who is like incredibly sensitive about being rejected. I don't really think that he's antisocial either. Yes, he does a lot of things that you can say that are immoral or selfish or things like that, but I think that that's kind of anti-intellectual because I think that that's just people stereotyping and overgeneralizing the idea of someone who has antisocial personality disorder to just being like, well, if you're a bad person and you're selfish, then that means that you're antisocial. No, it's like a specific diagnosis. While you can argue that it is so immoral for him to continue this relationship knowing this, that it is absolutely like sociopathic or antisocial, the situation is so fantastical that I don't know how to map that onto any actual diagnosis. Can't really abandon the relationship because of how insanely obsessive that she is. I don't know, while it's easy to judge people through a movie screen, I doubt many people would be so confident that this is not some form of psychosis or something like that if this situation was real, that you'd feel comfortable killing another human being. Despite the situation and despite the fact that we as the audience know that it's real because it's a movie, it just feels a little backwards to claim that someone has mental illness because they don't kill someone. At the same time, while I think that Bear made a lot of immoral decisions throughout the movie, I actually kind of don't know what a better alternative would have been other than things that would have just simply ended the movie, like calling the police. But while he is arguably even the villain of the movie, I actually don't think that any behaviors that he exhibits are consistent enough to map onto any specific diagnosis. Not to mention, a big part of diagnosis is impairment of function, and I don't know how to determine whether or not he has impairment of function because how do you function in this particular situation? Yeah, generally speaking, very hot take. I think Bear is neurotypical. He's just not a great guy. How about which character I should diagnose next?